What's going on, everybody? Logan with Infinite Money Trading. Going to be doing a position update video here, taking a look at the markets to start with, a couple of the indexes, see what's going on, and then jump into my positions where I've entered, exited, and then some of the holding positions that we have going on. Starting with the SPY, we have 7 days in a row of gains. Not the biggest in some of these days, but still the fact remains that's the most since about 2017, I believe. And so, a lot of momentum, a little bit of a rally. We're getting up to the all-time high up here. That's that 337. That's the resistance that we're at. Obviously, it's a little bit higher than that, but that's what I'm looking for. You get a little bit of a hanging man here today. Not something to worry about. Again, tech was down. And to be honest, S&P is just a tech index. Let's just be honest. And so everything else is really carrying. I mean, obviously, Apple is doing a little bit of work still. There was only about 1.5 points today. But taking a look at where we are, I mean, I'm expecting to at least test this sometime this week. I know we're slowing down a little bit, but we're going to get some sort of test, and we're going to see what happens. I would like to see, a couple days of testing, not just blowing by or just knocking our heads. I would like to see some healthy movement. We're going to see. And so let's just take a look at what happened to tech. Again, tech was leaking. So again, here's the June high, and tech just blew right by. We're looking at the NASDAQ. Consolidated a little bit. We tried to, restart this rally here from the stop. This is a pretty nice pattern here, and you'd expect some sort of, bull flag out of that, but we're not quite there yet. You would have thought that was the breakout. Still slowed down today. And the real big story is that the Dow in the Russell 2000, the small cap, and then some of the big blue caps in the Dow, not the tech oriented, but the energy sectors and things like that are really the ones leading the market right now. Take a look. Here's the June high. Now these lagging, tickers are actually finally breaking through. If we take a look at the Russell as well, you can really see here's the June, and we finally have came out of here. And that's very good for the market. It's very healthy. We're still not at the all-time high on both the Dow and the Russell. And so when you get some movement like that, that's really healthy for the market instead of just being completely catered to just tech and then following tech and chasing that momentum. If we get some of those lagging sectors moving through, that's going to be really nice. And I think that's what's actually going to help us propel through the all-time high here. If you take where we are in the channel, again, this is the most important channel that we have in terms of trends right now. If we do break above the all-time high, now we're coming into this problem again where we broke out of the channel here, and this was all retail. And so usually retail is not able to move price very much, but this is the entire, fiasco you have of Robinhood users just buying and buying and buying. And of course, they're going to let the price run up until the institutions come in and they're going to just sell on them. And that's what we got here. And they can continue to do that. And so that's not really the story right now. I would not say retail is leading the charge right now, because it's really not those sectors that are leading right now, as I just showed in the markets. But overall, really healthy. Nobody can be going, where's the top? Because, again, that's not how it works. So nice movement. And, the trend's nice. 7 days in a row is obviously a bit much. If we get a red candle here tomorrow, wouldn't be surprised. But again, tech was down today. So if tech is green tomorrow, then you're going to get another green candle. And so we're going to see. We're going to break that all-time high. It's going to happen. And so let's move out of this. Let's take a look at my positions. All right, so starting off where we left off in the last video, taking a look at cars. So in the last video, we were right here, July 31st. And so we had just got this big gap up. And I was talking a lot about how you got to push your trades, push your winnings. You don't sell until price reverses. And so you can see what the story was that was told here. Price didn't reverse. Today is actually where we finally sold. So if you take a look from where we bought, again, this is where our entry is, and I sold on this trend line here today. So you can take a look right here. And so that's what we're looking at. I'll show you on the intraday why I sold here. And so on this trend line here, if you climb on top, then you're expecting the upside. But if you break back through, then the upside's really not there anymore. We'd have to do it a whole new retest. And so you can already see how we had two tests here. So it's already getting close to selling. I pushed my positions pretty hard though. There's a lot of But so once we broke on the upside, then I'm thinking, okay, I can really push this trade further and further. But you can take a look on the 15-minute intraday here today. I got stopped right on this trend line, because if I break through this trend line, then I have to go through the entire test again, and that's not what I'm looking to push my contract through, even though it may pay off. But I'm going to take my profit. So as soon as this candle came in, that's right where the stop hit. And so that's cars. This has obviously been playing out for quite some time. Next up, WBT. So we've swung this position multiple times already. So I was able to get a sell up here at this resistance, came back down, bought on this trend line here. Again, every time I give you one of these channels, or I'm looking at this channel myself, that's what I'm looking for, these trend lines. That's also a support. So we're not just looking, again, green is support, red is resistance. And so went ahead, took this trade here. This was very nice. Again, we're still in this position, so this is something that's ongoing. Next up, HDS. So here's just a good example of buying at support. And so again, just another hold right now. And so you can kind of see what's happened here. Again, this happens a lot where you get this breakout and you get a little bit of a holding period, and you have to start asking yourself, am I going to hold this position longer? I mean, you could have, but this is obviously just a double swing here. Swing over, sell, buy back on the support. So nice position there. GM. So I've done this position a few times. I've had it in a couple watch lists. We were entered down here. We had to sell at resistance, and then we came back down. Wasn't really looking that healthy. Got this breakout here, obviously a little bit of a longer pattern, but finally coming out of this trend line looked very good. So we bought on support here, and then obviously another nice day today. Really open sky here. So next resistance I have up here at 35. I mean, you get a little bit going on in here. You can, make a case that there's some resistance coming up, but again, that's definitely a runner there. So that's nice. 10, I've mentioned this in chat here today. This is a really good example of just continuing to swing through a trade and just trusting in your support and resistance. So you get a really tight level of supply here on both sides. And so you can swing this back and forth, depending on if you have day trades or not. If you don't, then obviously that's fine. You're swinging day to day. So even if you can't make the trade intraday, that's fine. You don't need to be doing that. And this is a good example of that. Just take a look at the way price moved in between these two levels. Think about if you're just looking at this chart without these two levels drawn. I mean, this is how it works, right? This is a good proof of how support and resistance works and how the market reacts to those two levels, because you have buyers here and sellers here. And so you swing this all the way back and through, doing the exact same thing here when you buy on support. So this is on Friday, you buy at support, and take a look where we are now. And so when do you sell at resistance? Well, you sell when you get rejected. Is there a rejection here? Well, obviously there was no rejection here. Here there was no rejection. And so this is just a good example. You can take a look, 10.5 and 15% here today. Again, it's just sticking to it. You have to be consistent, follow your rules, and you're going to get a payday. OI, so this was OI glass. This was a very nice position. Again, this is a trend line sell here. And so if you take a look at the way this candle came up, now, in terms of when you get into these type of positions, again, the outside of the channel here, the trend, this is acting as resistance. You're on the bottom side of it. So just like we just saw, when you're on the inside, it acts as support. This is a good example of when it's resistance. And this happens a lot. And on a lot of this is a continuation pattern. And on a lot of the continuation patterns, what we're looking for is for price to climb back inside the channel here, the trend, and to continue that trend. Now, there's times, though, just like this, where you're going to get a rejection on that. And so that's your sell signal. So you take profit. So obviously a nice profit there. But again, that's going to happen. COM. So this is a multiple swing. Again, here's another example of selling at the trend line. And so I mentioned this, I believe, in the other video. Sold at the trend line, rebought in here. I think I made a comment in chat. Somebody asked, rate on this day here. And I said, yep, we're rebuying here. Again, you can just kind of see how this started to come back over. And again, there's supply at this level here. I just don't have it drawn. And so here you go. You get a nice gap up here. You can take profit, whatever you want to do in this. But again, another nice gain here. 30% there. These are inside bars here. There's definitely more room to run. But again, you can play that however you want. FireEye. So another one of those situations where you just follow your rules and you're going to get a payday. And so we took this big trade here. So we had already swung here, got 2 red candles, sold. So I got sort of sopped out there, bought in again, and here is your payday. Now I'm still holding more contracts on the long side because what I'm looking for is to see what happens when we actually get a test at this resistance. We sort of tested it here, but when you get a big gap up like that, obviously what's going to happen the next day is you're going to come down a bit. You have so much. I bet if we take a look at the volume, take a look here, see the amount of volume we got on this one candle here. You're going to need more volume than this candle here to be able to push higher. And so every single time this happens, you're going to get a less day, just like we're going to see on Z in a moment. You need more volume the next day to be able to push price higher. Monster, this is, again, follow your rules. So this is a short-term flag, and so most of my contracts were very short-term. I even had July 31st, but again, I'm a 3-month option kind of guy. I like to push my contracts, and so just take a look at this. We straddled right on the trend line the whole way, and now we've climbed up to the upside. And so now that we're up here, it's a whole new story. But if you can just take a look here, we've made a really nice gain, and the way it's slowly climbed up is also very nice for contracts. Instead of just a gap up and then prices are being guessed, it's really nice when it just, methodically moves its way up. So very nice trade there. CNX. So this is the new weekly chart, but we've entered this back down here and had already been pushing, and then I just updated this chart to a weekly. As you can see, you get to 26 to 30. So I'm really kicking it up now, but we've already gotten a lot of gains from this chart. If we just take a look where we are, you reset. If we just take a look, even from the bottom here, we're up over 40%. Again, another big 2 last days. So really moving now on this chart. I really like the way this is trading, a lot of volume. And if you just take a look at the price action, it's really strong price action, the way that you can just take a look at the size of the candles. So really hoping that's going to continue to run that way. We've broken this new range here. Zillow, obviously, what to say? Everyone's sort of been in this trade, which is really interesting. So we got in down here. This sidewards trading was really nice. There was a lot of opportunities. I know a lot of people are swinging and scalping. And then this is earnings. We pushed through to earnings. Obviously got rejected up here at the trend line. Still extremely bullish. But really just, if you just take a look at the amount of opportunities that were in here. So I obviously shaved off some of my short-term contracts that were expiring. But now I still have my 3 months holding those. I've obviously set a 167. We still have about 3 weeks on that goal. What I'm looking for is to climb in this trend. And so, when we climb into this trend, it's a lot different because you have support here. And so we're stopped here, which is going to happen. Again, the story of volume, just take a look. You have more volume than the last 2 weeks combined. This is what's going to happen. Once we climb into this channel here, it's going to be a lot easier to trade. That's it. It's great. VG. So another one of those good examples of when you follow your rules, you get paid. And so you could even take a look at buying at support, selling at this trend line here. There's not much action here. But again, buy at support, sell at resistance. And so this is a very easy trade. This isn't that much percentage points here, but there's never any doubt in this trade. So just think about it. Look for your opportunity to buy at support, and then look for when you get rejected at resistance. So you can see multiple attempts that you got rejected here. You don't need to do it on the first one. You don't need to do it on the second one. And then when you came back down, you can sell. And so you're not losing points for doing so. And so just a good example of, we have a scenario where we broke out. We had a rally, a stop. You're going to consolidate after a rally, and then you have an opportunity to buy. And so not many points, but again, you follow your rules, you get paid. Microsoft, so this was a tough trade here. So I had a flag. I know I extended it out. It doesn't look good anymore, but it was a flag. we got rejected with the market. I had gone over that, had bought in on this sideways action, and then we got paid up here. Now, what would have happened if we slowly climbed up? Well, that would have been fine too. But again, was there any doubt ever that this was going to crash down? No. I mean, there was never any doubt, right, in the market. That would have been priced in somehow. And so the gap up was a nice way to get paid. And what are we looking at now? Well, again, all of tech is down right now. So are we looking to go lower? I don't believe so. Again, we have some China worries that have sort of caused a little bit of this, but take a look at Apple. I mean, Apple's more reliant on China, and of course it's still just roaring right now. So definitely not worried about tech, but that was a nice trade that happened there. Next up, EIGR. So this is the option trap play that I had done. There's not much volume on the contract level, so I had bought up a lot of the calls. I can basically then raise the premiums on all those contracts when I'm selling them, when the demand is coming in. So if you take a look at what the price is here, we're up over 30%. And so that demand is coming in for those calls. And since there's not many people that can actually sell those calls, I basically can raise the premiums a lot higher. And especially when you get a lot of velocity, contracts do not get priced very well when there's velocity on the underlying, on just shares. Because again, when options are determining their price, it's going off of a little bit of a different math. Obviously the graph is going to look very similar, but what's going to happen is you're going to get people selling, and that's going to set the market price. And so if I'm selling a majority of a contracts at a certain level for a higher price, then you're going to get the bids coming up to meet that ask price. And so out of this, obviously 30% is great. And so you would have got a payday, but also by taking advantage at the option level, got some Roku. So we got the big gain here, 20%, had this entire sideways movement, good for the upside, but really a hard trade here. And so, you get about 12% here. If you were holding through, you get a couple different things going on. And so this is where earnings came. And so you can either hold through earnings or you can sell before, and you're selling with increased volatility as well. So if you sold here, then great, you bought in between earnings, but again, you don't know for sure what's going to happen. Roku had actually great earnings. They just had basically no guidance because they didn't actually know, but they had amazing numbers, best numbers that they basically ever had. And so what I had done is I had expected earnings to be great. And that's what I thought this entire sideways motion was. Again, you get a lot of support right in here, a lot of demand. And so when we came back down the next day, I still held. And so my theory behind this is that, so if you take a look at where we came down about 4% at open, and then we started to come back down, we bounced off support. And so my idea here was that, well, even if we don't get the green day today, we're going to get it. And with that increased volatility, so you got increased volatility coming into earnings, but then you get increased volatility because of the drop and then the bids that came back after. And so when we came back up here, and I had still held my contracts from back here, what actually happened at the contract level is that these calls, the volatility completely pushed price up, and so the calls actually were worth more at the top of this candle than they were over here. And that's even before the earnings. So even if you go take a look at those calls on the 3-month option, that's when I took profit here on a lot of those calls. Now, obviously we're down here, but again, we're still at this level here that's very bullish. We're not even actually getting close to breaking down out of this. We've completely solidified this position, and we haven't actually even broken the all-time high yet. And so there's a lot of room to go here. This is something that you just hold. Obviously, the story wasn't as good as we had hoped it would be, but still, we are holding a very strong support in here. I should really throw that level in for you, but still looking very good for the upside. And there was trades to be made in here, right? Even if you get a little bit of hold and you lost money at this point, you had an opportunity the next day, especially. And that's the day I took advantage of. And, these are following your rules again. You have support, so you don't need to sell yet if you're still holding. So very nice still on Roku. Best Buy, I mean, this is a very interesting trade. If you just take a look where we are, over the last couple of weeks, almost 9% here, and it's just constant upticks. From this position, there's never been a point where you don't just keep holding it long. It's a nice and easy trade there. FedEx, I mean, this has been an easy money printer type of play. If you just take a look at what I had tracked on this pattern here, so if you take a look at this trend that we got down here, and then a bottoming pattern, if you see the way this gaps up and we held sideways, this is a very nice bottom pattern in terms of price, where you've now entered this new support level. And so if you just take a look at when you buy in here, so there's a lot of different ways you can buy in here. If you just take a look, there's multiple opportunities, and this would be a really nice candle to take a look at as well. Just because of if you remember last week, I had talked about there's not much intraday movement. And so when that happens, you sort of could just enter in these positions without worrying about, too much intraday movement where you're going to get stopped out or anything on these levels. And then if you just take a look at what we've got in the last 2 days, 6.5% and then 9% today, really, really easy trade. I mean, there's nothing much else to say about that. SPG, I just want to make a note that REITs are still lagging a lot. I made a lot of money in this point here. And so when we came back up into the top of this channel in June, a lot of the lagging sector, not just REITs, but banking, travel, they all did this exact same spike here. And so I've charted this on a few different lagging sector charts, as I'm expecting another breakout here. And so this is a very interesting candle, and I would call this a very bullish candle. And so, we get about 5.5% today, bought in at support here, have been swinging. This is a very bullish candle, and I'm expecting what I've charted here to actually come into play for sure now. Now, we're going to continue to watch it, so if you're not already in a position, then, be patient, but looks pretty good. Might be able to finally get out of there. BHC, this is a very interesting chart. So we had entered around here. I can't remember how many days back. I think it might have been down here off this candle here. And so I had bought in at this support. And so I had actually entered and I held through here. I couldn't really swing in through here. If you just take a look at, we had a resistance and then another resistance, and it was bouncing back and forth, but there's not really an opportunity to sell. And then we gapped up, came up and tested resistance. So I sold at resistance. And if you didn't get to sell at any time of this candle, well, then that's too bad. You didn't follow your rules. And so that's a doozy. That was close. So I had just charted this new pattern here, and I had already been holding, and I increased my target, and we were able to just get that in the next day. So that was, it was pretty nice there. NMRK. So now we're entering in this new zone here. I'm excited about this chart a lot. It looks a lot like over here. If you take a look at the way this pattern came in. So not as big of a candle here, but this is a little bit healthier as well. It's a little bit easier to control. And a very nice wedge here. Let's see how early we got in before the apex. Dan, so this is a little bit of a hard one. So never really had an entry. Had to wait until we get back up to the support. And so now we've got 2 days in a row of very strong movement. And it does look like now we're going to continue this sort of trend right over here. So this is still definitely in play. If you take a look, we don't really have resistance still up here. VSTO. This is one of those trades where you just keep pushing it. And so take a look. We had some support here to buy on. You fix that. And so now we're up a little over 35.5%. Now, what you do here, again, you're selling at resistance, right, on your trend line. And so that's 100% a swing you can make if you take a look at the amount of percent in there. And so either trade that you make in here, there's multiple options to do, but this is a trade that you're going to want to continue to push now that we're in this channel here. So just take a look at the recent history here. Definitely something to keep going. CAR-G, so again, follow your rules. So let me fix this. This is support. So just take a look. Buy at support, sell at resistance. And why do we do that? Because this is what can happen the next day and you can get really screwed up here. But even take a look at this candle here. You get an opportunity to buy at support again both times. And so what are we going to do here? Well, I'd like to look to buy at support again. So these two candles are a little bit scary back to back, but they also make the case that the bids are there. Take a look at the amount of bids in here, percentage-wise. That's almost 10% intraday just on bids. So there's scalping, there's swinging opportunities. There's a lot in there. And so that's a fun chart there. DFIN, so very easy here again. Take a look at the trend that was in here, a continuation diamond. So a lot of different supports to buy on. So just take a look at the way we moved through here. And so there's a lot of percent here. This is still very bullish. And so there's not really, when I get 2 daily red candles, then I sell. And so what I've done here is just basically taking the profit on my short positions, short-term positions, and we're going to keep holding the long positions. SRNE, so the gift that just keeps on giving here. So this is a good, explanation again of how you need to push your trades. So if you take a look on your entry here, let's just take a look at the percentages, the way it works. And so you had about 13% from open to open here, closed at about 40. The next day you gapped up again. This is about 50, that's 53%. What are you doing in this scenario? You're not selling when this comes down, even though it's a lot of percentages, or a lot of points, I should say. You need to see a clear reversal in price, right? And if you sell here and say, I took profit at 53%, then great. Good for you, you get 53%. But if you want to make money and really turn a profit, you need to be pushing your winnings, right? So just take a look at where we are now. We're over 100%. And so saying that I took profit here and that feels good because you're worried about losing it, that's not the way to trade. You're not going to make money doing that. There's times when you start getting this red candle here and you're coming down and it breaks down and then you lost it because you didn't have a chance. Well, you'll have a chance in here to get your stop. At some point you're going to get your stop and maybe you only made $100 and then you can still say profit is profit. But the reality is that that's only going to happen a percentage of the time. And you have to be able to get through those trades. You have to be consistent and just follow your rule. And if your rule is to push your trades and you do it every time, you're not going to let the trades that actually hurt or they roll back over and you just break even or maybe even lost money. You can't let those ones hurt the rest of your trades, because if you just follow that rule of pushing your trades, don't overthink it. You need to see a clear reversal. There was never a clear reversal, and you push it. Just take a look. Take a look at the size of these candles. And again, over 30% today. There's no reason you shouldn't be making over 1,000% on your contract on tickets like this. I mean, you're making more than 1,000% on most of the contracts. Those are just the conservative ones. And so there's definitely contracts in there that made 2,000% on this if you're able to sell them, right? I'm looking for contracts that I can sell a big position. So it's a little bit different, but if you're looking at some out of the money contracts, then you definitely got a lot of points on that. MGNI, another ticket that's very interesting, because when you think about buying at support, selling, or resistance, it can get a little dicey in here. So if you take a look, there is an opportunity to buy at support. Now you're getting caught up in supply here, and you can see it especially on the intraday. If you're looking at this, and then you can see another opportunity to sell or resist. So what are you doing in these scenarios? Well, you have to be constantly swinging, right? You have to follow your rules all the time. You can't just decide sometimes you want to follow your rules. And so you have to be swinging back and forth. And so you got another opportunity to buy and you bounce back up. That's when you would have bought, and that's how you would have captured this candle here. And again, here, no movement at all, but you can see how we came down. You got to just be able to hold through these kind of things, because take a look where we are. There's no resistance up here. Looks very strong. And so just another one of those things where watch your velocity, but also follow your rule even on every single one of these candles. And so, it gets cumbersome. There's a lot to do, but again, important to do, and hold true to your rules. ARNC, this is a very, bold chart compared to all the charts that are coming out. This is July 6th. Never was a time where this didn't look bullish, right? When I talk about sideways movement, this is to the upside. Take a look, it's holding on to support. And so we're up a lot on this chart. We're 50% here on the close, and then we came up to all the way to 65. I had to take off some of the contracts because the expiration is literally coming up. but I still have a long term, the 3 month that's now down to about a month to 2 month. And so we're pushing those. I had said it in chat, there's about another 50% to gain in here. And so that's what I'm looking for. So very nice chart there. Just want to finish up by mentioning that I added in the bearish short term and the bearish classic patterns into the Discord in the education section. So now, the GIFs, the write-ups are all there, so you can see those. And again, all the technicals in these sections, the classic patterns, short-term patterns, indicators, and oscillators, that's all the technical analysis I use. Every single one of them, those are the only things I'm looking for. The write-ups are written in a way that are just based on the understanding in the way I use them. And so you can take a look, you can see how I use certain oscillators or certain short-term patterns with that specific pattern. So, if I'm looking at a double bottom, I'm looking for a short-term pattern to happen at the peak. If it's coming back down, there's things to be looking at, and you can find those all within this section. So I just wanted to mention it. It's a good resource to have. I do label all the charts now with what the pattern is, so you can see what I'm looking for in terms of volume, different price movement, what other oscillators may be a good sign that it's a good confirmation, those type of things. So again, it's all in there. Take a look. It took some time. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in chat.